Death to all Crips and Bloods. Death to all GDs and BDs. May they all die like King Von. May they all die like Drakeo the Ruler.
Raymond Washington. Tookie Williams. Who else I need to say? Lil Rank. Confront me about some Crips in the blood. I swear to God, I one of you. I think you some cowards.
I'ma catch your bitch on playing. I'ma catch you. I'ma catch
In for a year.
I'ma catch you.
In the gang world, you can't just talk big without some backup, and it's starting to look like the skies might be getting stormy for Charleston White. He's got a reputation for throwing out some pretty controversial, in-your-face opinions about gangs.
I'm gonna give you 10 seconds.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Vaughn all over again.
Not only does he take every chance he gets to threaten gang members, but he also calls the cops on them, which most would see as straight up snitching.
I'm calling down to the police department and seeing if they still getting away that 1600, I think it's 1650, for gang members with guns. Yeah, all you niggas need to be arrested.
And if that wasn't bold enough, he's gone as far as threatening to off members of infamous gangs like the Bloods and Crips, two groups you definitely don't want to mess with. You'd think he'd stop there, but nope. Charleston also decided to go after celebrities, with T.I. being one of his most notable targets.
Yep. And you better tell him you work for Crime Stoppers. He talking about I got a badge. You had a badge, so I had a badge, T.I. Remember? They had you going around doing a community service, talking to the kids.
Over the years, his fiery views have sparked all kinds of reactions, leaving many wondering how he's still around and kicking. Let's dig into this wild ride. If there's one thing you can count on when it comes to Charleston, it's that he's a master at stirring up controversy. However, this isn't your run-of-the-mill kind of controversy that revolves around the usual topics like politics or celebrity gossip. No, this goes much deeper than that, diving straight into the gritty world of gang culture, where he has a knack for calling out and dissing gang members who honestly could take him out in the blink of an eye if they wanted to.
I'ma catch your on playing. I'ma catch you. I'ma catch you.
In for a year.
I'ma catch you.
He hops online, seemingly with zero fear, creating all sorts of scandals that involve some of the most hardcore members of notorious gangs like the Crips and the Bloods. And we all know that anyone who dares to challenge these gangs is usually asking for trouble and doesn't walk away unscathed. Yet Charleston, with all his bravado, just keeps throwing his name into the mix and pushing those boundaries further and further, showing no signs of backing down. Which makes you wonder what his end game is, or whether he really understands just how risky it is to play with fire like that. So about a year ago, Charleston got himself into this back and forth exchange with some guy who was apparently a member of the South Crip gang.
Escalating, put that hit out when y'all got into it with the Mexicans out there. You, the world saw it. The world saw when them Mexicans made y'all niggas sit down, go back to black people.
The whole thing started off kind of slow, almost like they were just sizing each other up, but it didn't take long before it turned into something heated. And Charleston had to cut them off from his live stream, which honestly felt like it escalated out of nowhere. You could actually hear him calling out one of the guys, like repeatedly, and he didn't hold back either. He straight up called the dude a crab-a ninja, like over and over again.
Oh, you want them crab ass. You want them crab ass. Yeah, you want them crab ass. Crab ass.
Then, to stir things up even more, Charleston started talking about how he remembers when the Mexicans put a hit out on the Crips, basically saying, "I remember when the Mexicans put the hit out on you Crip ninja," and then added, "You ninjas stop wearing white t-shirts." He just kept pushing it though, and at some point he casually threw in, "Just messing, mate. Go back to K-ing black people," like it was nothing.
I remember the Mexicans put that hit out on you. I remember the Mexicans put them hit out on them Crip niggas. You niggas wearing white t-shirts. I remember them. Hey, I remember SA them put that hit out when y'all got.
Honestly, anyone watching would have probably thought that was the peak of the drama, but of course it wasn't. Not for Charleston anyway. After he cut them off, he didn't just let it end there. Nope, he went on to joke about the whole Mexican versus Crip fight and basically how the Crips didn't stand a chance when the Mexicans came for them, which, you know, just kept adding fuel to the fire.
LA Crip into it with the Mexicans. I think y'all robbed them or the East Coast Crips or something, and the Mexicans, all y'all called pussy, cuz.
Even though there were a lot of people warning him, telling him to chill because he was putting himself in danger, Charleston seemed to be totally unbothered and, if anything, enjoying all the attention. Like the thrill of it was part of the whole deal for him. And let's be real, Charleston isn't the type to back down. So of course, he didn't stop there. Fast forward to another live session, and Charleston's back at it. But this time it's with a different gangster who literally pulled a gun on him through the phone screen, saying, "I'ma catch you, Bia. Ninja. I'm not playing. Bia Ninja. I'ma catch you."
Think I'm playing? I'm gonna catch you. I'm gonna catch you.
And then for a year.
I'm gonna catch you.
You've been saying that.
Think I'm
You've been
playing?
saying that
You
for a
ain't
year.
come to
And you'd think anyone would get at least a little shook by that, right? But not Charleston. Nope. He just brushed it off like it was nothing, joking around as usual. He even responded by saying, "Ninjas who want ninjas, come get 'em. Bad ninjas, come get 'em. Come get me." Almost like he was daring them.
For you
Leaving.
catch nigga, get nigga. Bad nigga, come get me. You come get me.
Like that.
Come get me.
You
Come
ain't
get
like
me.
that.
Come get me.
You ain't.
And then he took it a step further, asking the guy to send him some money if he was serious about taking him out. I mean, talk about pouring gas on the fire. He just kept pushing it, to the point where some people watching actually started feeling sorry for him, thinking he was in way over his head. One person even commented saying, "I don't like CW messing with people or snitching on anybody." But then, there were others who had his back, claiming, "A lot of y'all back your homeboys, but they be 100% wrong. I'm not gonna lie, if I become rich and somebody threatens my life, I'm telling, and me and my family are skipping town. Y'all just looking at drill rappers with money." I call them deadbeat dads with money. Real dads with money gonna do everything he can so he can see his children grow up. But of course, that's not the only time Charleston has stirred things up. There was another time when he went live again, and this time he called the police while still dissing gang members, which is pretty much the last thing you'd expect someone to do, right? I mean, if there's one thing that's a complete no-go with gangs, it's snitching, and that's exactly what Charleston did. In gang culture, snitching is basically the highest form of betrayal, like the ultimate offense. And no one takes that lightly. So in this viral video that was going around, you could see Charleston saying he was calling the police to make sure a specific group of gang members got arrested. He even said, "All you ninjas need to be arrested. The federal government need to come in here and get y'all BIA ninjas."
The federal government come in here and get all you. Get all you.
And just when you think he might back off a bit, he goes ahead and spits on the Bloods, using the F word on them and even calling them cowards, while once again comparing them to the Mexican gang. The reactions to all this were all over the place, but most people seemed more concerned for Charleston's safety, like they were seriously worried about what could happen to him if he keeps pushing these boundaries. And you could really feel that sense of tension in a lot of the comments. So, CW's constant habit of calling out these gangs didn't seem to come with any real physical threats to his life, at least not ones that he took seriously. And that's probably why he's kept going, still having the guts to play rough with these dangerous groups, knowing full well what it could lead to. But let's take a little detour here, because you might think his focus is all on gangs, right? Well, not quite. Turns out he's tangled with celebrities too, and one of the most notable examples of this is his beef with T.I. Now, sure, T.I. does have some connections to gang life, but you'd think that situation would be less risky because T.I. has a reputation to protect and might just decide to ignore CW, choosing to keep things cool. But nope, here's how it all went down. So there's been talk going around about T.I.'s son, King Harris, being somehow involved in gang activities, and apparently King had some sort of altercation with CW, which definitely didn't end well. In a viral video, CW took things to another level by threatening to shoot T.I.'s son in the throat if he ever tried coming at him again, and to top it off, he told T.I. straight up to control his son, like, to keep him in check. But it didn't stop there. CW made this wild claim about T.I. working for Crime Stoppers, which, for anyone familiar with street life, is basically a way of calling T.I. a snitch without actually saying the word. And as you probably know, being labeled a snitch in that world is about as bad as it gets.
They had you going around doing a community service, talking to the kids about reporting crime because you got caught with a bunch of guns on federal paper. We don't know how you beat them charges, T.I.
But Charleston's always been known for stepping on toes, stirring up trouble wherever he can. I mean, aside from T.I., he's also taken shots at other rappers, including King Von. During one of his Instagram live sessions, a Bloods gang member actually told CW to apologize to King Von and squash the beef they had, but instead of doing that, in typical Charleston fashion, he just messed around and said, F King Von. And if you thought that was bold, he didn't stop there. He went on to say, F King Von's mama. And then, just to really drive it home, F King Von's baby all over again.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, f Von all over again.
Okay, I'm glad you feel that way. Okay, I'm glad you feel that way.
1,
Now check this out.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, Von mama all over again.
Oh, okay, mama too.
That was intense, no doubt about it, but it really gives you a sense of just how fearless CW has become over time. And on the flip side, how terrified some people are for his safety because, let's be real, in the streets, you can't just step on people's toes like that without expecting some serious consequences at some point. So bringing it back to how he's been putting his life on the line, especially with all the trash talk he's been doing about the Bloods and the Crips, it's a dangerous game he's playing, no doubt about it. Anyone who's even a little familiar with the history of these gangs knows they've been at war with each other for years, and it's led to countless deaths. The whole thing kicked off when a lack of economic opportunities in South Central LA forced young men into gang life, and the Crips were one of the first to form, staking out their territory and defending it from other groups. The Bloods came together as a response to all the violence the Crips were causing, and from there, the conflict escalated. Both gangs started extorting money from local businesses in the 70s, and then, in the early 80s, they got into the drug game, specifically crack coke, which only made things worse. The LAPD tried to crack down on the gangs, launching a huge anti-gang operation in 1987 called Operation Hammer, but it didn't have the effect they hoped for. Instead of reducing violence, it led to mass incarceration, and the way the police handled things, even going as far as vandalizing people's homes, actually pushed some of the gangs to unite. In 1992, there was even a peace agreement signed in LA between two rival Crip chapters and the Bloods, which brought the violence down for about 10 years. But eventually, it flared up again, mainly because the economic conditions hadn't really changed, and the same problems that started the whole thing were still there. The city of LA introduced some new policies around 2006 that helped bring crime down again, but the war between these gangs didn't stop, and it spread beyond LA now too. In 2012, for example, there was a major conflict in Hempstead, New York, where 56 people ended up getting shot by the end of the year, and by 2014, it was estimated that around 20,000 people had died because of this ongoing war. The Bloods and Crips have been battling each other for control over their territories for decades, using whatever weapons they could get their hands on, from cheap handguns, switchblades, and Molotov cocktails to straight-up hand-to-hand combat. And on top of that, they got involved in extortion, setting up protection rackets to shake down local businesses for money. Back in 1979, one of the Crips' founders, Raymond Washington, was oft in a gang-related shooting, and another key figure, Stanley Tukey Williams, was convicted of 4 MDers, which led to him being sentenced to death in 1981 and ultimately executed in 2005. So as if all of CW's antics weren't already wild enough, there's this clip where he's seen going after none other than Tukey Williams, and it's just another example of how he's willing to stir up even more trouble with these gangs. Now, if you're wondering what all these gangs, whether it's the Bloods, the Crips, or anyone else, seem to have in common when it comes to dealing with CW, it's their zero-tolerance approach. You'd think that with all the knowledge Charleston has about just how deadly these groups can be, he'd think twice before taunting them. But nope, that's not Charleston. He's not backing down anytime soon. And this time around, he went all in, making a claim that had everyone cracking up. He said he'd off every single Blood and Crip member.
With a bad gun, nigga. Oh, I'm laying dead to Crip. I'm laying dead to a motherfucking Crip.
He started his usual rant by throwing out a bunch of cuss words, dropping the F-bomb left and right, and then he got real specific, naming off all the places and people his threats were aimed at, and of course, he couldn't resist going further, saying, "I'd off one of you BA ninjas, confront me, and I'll off one of you."
Confront me about some Crips in the blood. I swear to God, I one of you. I think you cowards.
This whole rant went on for over 40 minutes, with Charleston tossing around insults and threats like it was a game. But honestly, by this point, it seemed like people weren't giving him the kind of attention he was probably hoping for anymore. Then, in typical Charleston White fashion, he did something completely unexpected, something that no one saw coming. Recently, a dispatch call from the Chicago Police Department made the rounds, where an officer reported that someone identifying themselves as Charleston White had called in saying he'd been shot by 3 men outside Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago. Emergency teams rushed to the scene, but when they got there, no victim was found. This, of course, led to a whole bunch of speculation, with people wondering if it was all just a prank. Social media, as you can imagine, blew up with reports claiming that Charleston White had been shot, and people started sending out messages of concern, offering prayers for his recovery, all that. But then, it didn't take long before others chimed in, suggesting it might have been a case of mistaken identity, and maybe it was just another guy with the same name. One user even posted saying, "There's a Charleston White who lives in Chicago. It's a different Charleston. Just a crazy coincidence," which really threw everyone for a loop. Adding to the confusion, some users pointed out that the scanner report described the victim as being in his 30s, while the Charleston White we all know, the famous one, the anti-violence activist and comedian from Fort Worth, is in his 40s and lives in Texas, not Chicago. Another comment said, "This is not the famous Charleston White. This is a different individual who shares the same name." According to the scanner, the victim is in his 30s. Charleston White is in his 40s and resides in Texas, not in Chicago. And that pretty much summed up the general feeling of disbelief. Despite all the drama, it turns out that no shooting actually took place, and the emergency responders and hospital staff confirmed that nothing had happened at the location. This fueled even more rumors that the whole thing might have been a prank, and people started to speculate that the call to the police may have come from a hospital landline. And honestly, considering Charleston's track record for pulling stunts and getting attention in the most unexpected ways, it wouldn't be all that surprising if he staged the whole thing just to keep the buzz going. In the end, the famous Charleston White is still alive and kicking, no doubt about that. But the real question that's on everyone's mind now is, how much longer can he keep pushing these boundaries and stirring the pot before something serious happens?